Hey everybody, welcome to Mechanic to Mechanic. I'm Brandon, and we got, of course, Max and two customers that are here today who are also our dads.
Hey.
So I'm going to introduce my father. This is Scott Mazzell, and Max, I'm
This is Terry Jr.
Terry Jr. Jr. You're junior or his junior?
He's junior.
Oh, okay.
I'm senior.
You're senior.
And
He's
Max
junior.
Jr.
Max
Right.
Jr. I got you. I'll understand it
It goes
eventually.
down. Yeah,
It goes down and up at the same time.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, well, welcome everybody. We've got a really, you would consider a intuitive episode based on the customers today. Store managers need to pay attention. This is for you guys too, but especially for the customers. We want you to know what you can ask for. We want you to know what experiences you can expect when a store manager is trying to explain your services and help you understand what you need done to your car. This is an episode that Max really has a lot of information on and a passion for. I'm going to turn the time over to Max and let him introduce what we'll be talking about today.
We're going to go ahead and start off today talking about building customer trust and, most importantly, shop transparency.
Yeah.
That is, transparency from the time you walk in the door, from prices of services, and, with all those, quoting everything properly up front. That way there's no hidden fees on the backside or unexpected things that come up. Obviously, they do occasionally, but if your shop is consistently adding things on the back end,
right,
that kind of decreases transparency.
Unexpected things is a good point. Those can be one of those moments, when you need to re-evaluate what the customer is seeing.
Yeah. One of the other things would be, just seeing some of the tools and inquiring about or showing a prime example. We do show and sells with waiter oil changes. So customer comes out, we use, some small, simpler tools and,
or the pad wear gauge,
the pad wear gauges,
two big ones.
Two big ones. That's a quick, easy one. Stick it right in between the pad backing and the rotor, and it'll show you how many millimeters you're at. And almost all of them that I've seen have been color coded to a green, yellow, red. So there's a couple green ones showing, yes, these brake pads are good, tolerable thicknesses. Down to yellow, these are getting kind of worn out. We need to start addressing this soon, or definitely keep an eye on it. And then you're down into the red, where it's time to replace these and visual aid as well.
Do you have any recent experiences where you knew a customer needed to see that?
Yes, actually. The other week I had, of course, it's always with a state inspection.
Right.
The tires, the guy said, "Man, look at the amount of tread still left on these bad boys. I can run them until they're slicks." According to the state of North Carolina, no, you cannot.
You can't.
And this is where the gauge comes into play, where you lay it on there, and they can clearly see green, yellow, red. The red's up here showing this doesn't pass state inspection state.
That's a good one, actually, because I don't think there's a single store manager out there who hasn't had to explain that we can't let you continue on these tires. Have you guys had state inspections where your tires did not quite make it through?
I with my son, of course, when he asks a question, he knows I'm guilty already.
Yeah, I do.
Makes for an interesting discussion. You remember the green Aspire?
I absolutely do, and I thought you might talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. I was thinking about it the whole time. One thing that you guys can do, you get somebody that's maybe 50 years old, thinks he knows everything, comes in to get a set of just the front tires. The back tires are almost totally slick. And this customer who thinks he knows everything doesn't realize what can happen in a rainstorm. So what is it that happens to a rainstorm? I can attest to it.
Hydroplaning. And that's
actually when it first rains.
The hardest tire to sell is a tire that has a little bit of tread, but is at the wear bar. And most customers don't understand that the wear bar is there for what? It could
disperses the water.
Right.
Probably.
Right. So it can no longer disperse
Doesn't
water.
have a deep enough channel.
Technically it's slick, looks like it has tread, but yeah, we can't, as a shop, we do care about your safety. We do really want you to understand that at that wear bar, you're no longer on tires that have tread on them in the rain, which means every time you try to pass over a puddle, standing water of any sort, you're going to hydroplane. You're not going to cut through that water. That's the indicator that those channels are no longer connected, even though they might look like they are.
Yeah. Now, another thing that I'm sure you pass on to your customer, if you're going to let there be less tread, where is that less tread supposed to go, in the front or the back?
Right.
It all depends, and this is
To
the
pass the
actual.
inspection, it has to be on both.
This
Well,
is
yes,
well, yes, but when you're
Yeah.
referring to passable numbers
it's all the same.
going
Yeah.
to the front and the rear, it all depends on rear wheel drive, front wheel drive,
Right.
and it also is a very long standing argument in the automotive community.
Right.
Where I've argued with guys till I'm blue in the face about these tires when they're new need to go on the front, or they're new they need to go on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's arguments both ways, so it's kind of one of those things like, does electricity flow negative to positive or positive to negative? That's always a
Well, you know,
good
experience
argument.
is the best.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And if
Oh,
you
yeah.
survive the experience, it's even better.
Well, my father's car, after not purchasing all four tires with proper tread on them, ended up in a bunch of trees, and my dad had nothing but a scratch on his forehead.
Holy smokes!
God looking out for sure, because
Yeah.
that car was totaled.
Yeah. What, to keep it brief, what happened is it was a front wheel drive. It's an old Ford Aspire, I think it was called.
It was as a
Yeah.
Ford
And,
Aspire, 1993, I believe.
And I had brand new tires on the front and slick on the back. Now, I was coming over this hill. It was raining to where there was standing water, and it was
Right.
just a 2-lane road with no traffic. What I ended up doing was I said, I can't hit the brake, but I let off the gas a little bit. And standing water, you don't want to do that.
You stop moving those front wheel drive tires, like Max was talking about, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive. You can no longer pull yourself through the problem, so
Yeah.
you just start skidding. You start skiing like you're on a boat. So
To make
Back
it
end might
to
start
make
then
it
back end
short,
starts to jump out.
be very brief about this. He told me what I needed to do. He said instead of letting off the gas when it started sliding in the back, I was supposed to increase the speed because the only thing biting is the front.
Yep.
And so every time I turned, it swung more and more and more and more.
Well,
And finally, I was off the road.
that we don't want you guys to have to do that technique. It is good for you guys to know. What I want to focus on right now is actually for the store managers or the supervisors that are talking to you guys. You've got to be able to catch when you need to bring the person out to the tires and show them the wear bar.
Yep.
Show that we have tread and then we have wear bar. And there's no gap in between, meaning we've reached the wear bar. Now, Max, I want to ask you a question because you're preparing to be a store manager eventually, right? We're working on a new location for Twin City. When the customer sees that the tire is at the wear bar and still doesn't agree that is the fact, right?
Right.
You're wanting them to understand that you're presenting an actual fact. Do you stop with just showing them the tread, or do you go deeper?
A lot of times I try and go a little bit deeper into it. Good tool is always the state inspection poster on the wall. That states very clearly 330 seconds. That's your limit. There is other visual aids that I've seen in different shops, more commonly in a tire shop.
On the wall and
on the wall,
on the
things
front
like
edge.
that. They have signs showing, the
Yeah,
different.
there's signs out there that show if you're going to have slightly heavier on a front wheel drive like that, you need to have the heavier in the back, not the front, even though it's
Right.
not driven from the back.
Right.
And that's that poster that I remember seeing. I won't name where I saw it, but you can look at that for 5 seconds and oh, I can't
Well,
do this stupid
that-
thing I'm about to do.
Both have been out there on posters, but it actually has been confirmed that on the front wheel drive car, you need the traction on the front. So,
Well, you
yeah.
do, but if you have bald in the back and tread on the front, then your back end will
More
try to
likely
pass
to-
you when you slow
yeah,
down.
it's more likely
Yes.
to slide out, but you
Yeah.
you get that traction on the front to pull out of it.
That's the part I did
why
not
you
know.
that's why you put the tread on the front.
Yep.
It has been presented professionally and factually by the industry both ways,
Yeah.
but as of now, we do know that you need to be able to power out of a what's called a understeer situation.
Yep.
Understeer situation. I'm getting oversteer, understeer, and by getting extra traction from those tires. On the subject of displays, I'm assuming you've been into some shops and seen the displays. Have you had any experiences where somebody actually was able to use those to help you understand something you did not previously understand?
Yeah, the graphics and stuff on some of those posters and things help the average automotive owner to understand a little better. And you're going to talk about shop transparency and trust with your customers a little bit. And I have a little story to share about that. When I was young and first started teaching school, and I went in and I thought I just had one bad tire, and
Yeah.
pretty soon they showed me everything that was wrong with my car.
You got to see it on the lift, right?
I got to see it
Yeah.
on the lift. I got
The
to,
ugly
they brought me a
details.
belt like you had told a story earlier on, and whether the belt was really bad or they helped it out or whatever.
Right.
It hurts the customer trust more than that little bit of business that they're going to get.
Right.
So then I never went back to that place. And that was
They're
back
saying
in-
one thing, but showing you
Yeah.
something that clearly could hang in there.
showing
for a
me
while.
other things. And
Right.
I thought I was in there for one bad tire.
Yeah.
Pretty soon I'm $3,000 out of pocket, and
Yeah.
brand new tires on everything.
All four corners,
and then
new suspension,
belts,
new belt.
new batteries, new
Yeah.
everything that I needed.
Yeah.
So customer trust is very important, and the transparency that you're going to talk about in today's podcast, I think, is very
Yeah.
important.
I'm gonna assume when they built such a large ticket, they probably had details on what you actually needed, but did not go into a lot of detail on all these other items.
That's correct. And also, I feel like the customer, when that happens to them one time, you grow up real fast and you learn
you already
how
got
to be
bit.
the man of your vehicle.
Right.
So I learned real fast as a young man, just first newly married, and I wanted it to be perfect because we were going to be hauling our babies, and you want everything to be right for your vehicle, but you learn real fast of what you need and what you don't need, and that's why customer trust is very important. Graphics help explain things. A mechanic that's calm and can show you something and discuss it with you, it's very important. And so I'm glad you guys are having a podcast tonight on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's
Yeah.
really good input, actually. We're about to go into detail on some tools that we can use in those situations, and I think a good pointer for all of us is when we're building a ticket for a customer, if you can say in your own mind that on this singular item, let's say there's 18 things of a huge ticket, right? But on this one item, I have not only, I know that it's broken, but I have tools that can show that it's broken. That's a good indicator that you actually need to sell that item.
Right.
If you stop at, I'm pretty sure that this is a little bit worn out, but you can't pull a
Right.
tool to explain why it's worn out to go into enough detail, it's
Yeah.
probably not worn out enough.
Kind of like that wheel bearing that's not quite making that noise, and
Yeah.
also has no play in it. But
If you can
it's
put a
bad.
stethoscope on it and you can barely hear a noise and then you don't think the customer's going to hear it, did you sell the wheel bearing?
Probably not.
No.
Probably not time. It's probably time to tell them that
Yeah.
it's getting
If
close.
you're scared,
Hey,
if you're scared to use the tool that shows that shows the customer that the part is ready to be replaced, then don't sell the item.
speaking of
Yeah.
stethoscope, I believe you brought one.
I did bring a stethoscope.
Play doctor.
Let's play doctor. Okay, cool. So that's visual aids, guys. This is the cool part of the episode. All right, so this we are car doctors. We have all kinds of tools that doctors have. Actually, pretty
Take those
much.
for me.
No, these are mine.
Just like mine.
They probably do. They're probably from the same place, Harbor Freight.
Sure.
But we have about every tool that a doctor has, down to the
Mirrors.
X-rays and
Pick
scopes and graphs and picks.
knives.
We got hammers, not for doing the knee jerk test, but smacking things on a car. I mean, it still counts,
I
right?
got one that works for it.
A pry bar works for that. On the joints, we put a pry bar on there to see if the joints are working properly. So this is one of our tools that we use as employees and store managers and mechanics to determine whether or not that specific item, I got it on right here, is bad. You can put it on that nut connected to that component and listen. Whatever component is the loudest is the one actually causing the noise, right?
So you guys maybe have seen somebody use a
Have
screwdriver.
either of y'all seen one of these before?
I
That is a crying
believe
shame.
so.
I'm serious. So how old are you, Dad?
I'm 60 plus. 65.
60 plus. Okay.
61.
61. Okay, we're owning our age today.
Mhm.
In 60, let's go with 60 years. Both dads here on the show have not had a supervisor of a shop or a mechanic pull this tool out. So we're keeping them to ourselves, right? And when we
Right.
keep these tools to ourselves, when we know that we've done the process of finding the problem, we notice the customer's uncomfortable, and instead of showing them, what do you think is happening with these managers? Like choking
Folding under the
up,
pressure, and-
folding under the
or
pressure,
maybe they don't know how to properly explain it in
Not
some
notice-
cases.
Yeah.
Um,
or the store manager's not a mechanic and doesn't know how to explain what was done.
that happens quite a bit.
That does.
Unfortunate. My store
Well,
manager
I
was a
imagine
mechanic.
too that when you use one of those because your customer's not familiar with it,
Yeah.
if you're trying to let him independently discover what you've already found,
Right.
you can tell him, okay, here's this, go ahead and feel 2 or 3 other spots on the engine and
then
see if you
You could-
agree.
right. You could see
So
multiple
that
spots
actually
on the
leads
engine.
into a lot of what I do personally, to help with those things that are actually bad that need to get replaced.
Mhm.
Is nobody wants to go in like they come into both, that happened to your dad, that happened to you. That's you come in and they tell you all these things that's wrong with your car. Where's the positivity in any of it? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
it's just words. It's just a bunch
So
of words.
a lot of times, like earlier this week, I had a customer in 100,000-mile vehicle. It was like 98,000. We started talking about 100,000-mile services, all these things that we need to get done. But I started off by saying, look, I've checked your service history, and they've done this, this, and this. I checked over the fluids, the coolant level, and the coolant still tests good, which is with a hydrometer.
Right.
You can visually show that. You can test a sample.
You
Brake fluids.
You pull transmission
Pull
fluid.
transmission fluid,
in the
show
bottom
them
of
the
the pan.
quality of it. You can you take a brake fluid tester that tests for
Mhm.
moisture content in the brake fluid, all those things, and those are tests that I can easily show a customer if their stuff is in good shape. Look at all these things that are going well for you. Let's take care of these couple things that aren't going so well for you. Because a lot of people when they see these more expensive repair bills or 18 items that need to get taken care of, their immediate thought is, man, I'm just going to get rid of this car.
Well, they're starting to add up how much of this is BS, right?
and
The more
right?
items you add, the more you need to explain. I believe.
Absolutely,
the more-
because
the more-
you should be able to prove anything that's
Right. The more you need to pull these tools out.
Do you find that customers' trust increases when you tell them this is your urgent, this is medium, this is long term, so
absolutely.
that he can get by with a much lower immediate bill on what he's gonna have to pay?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You've got to do that. You should always break down what
And-
needs to be done
and
and what
even give
doesn't need to
them-
be done immediately.
I try and go a little bit above and beyond what other places do, and I'll try and say, hey, and I'll speak to them like, let's build a game plan. Not only does that put in their mind that, hey, this guy's looking out for my best interest and not trying to kill me right now, hit me over the head with a bill, but I'm basically expecting him to come back, right?
Right.
So by me saying, hey, on your next visit or the third visit, you might this might be your first time visiting me, but you're already thinking about the next time coming in.
Yeah,
you
you're already prepared
you-
for what might be due next.
And what is something that we need to keep an eye on, I make notes of
Yeah.
this and we'll talk about it next time you come in.
Well, you've already established trust, even if that guy's coming in for the first time. And if he really believes in you with the way you handled that, the way you divided it out to keep him on the lowest cost out of the parking lot,
Right.
then he's not gonna wanna go to anybody.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was actually going to ask everybody at the table, especially you, JR. How would you have reacted if that young man had let you listen to your bad wheel bearing?
Well, that would have helped a lot.
Might help.
And there were other tools that people have shown me different things, and they're helpful.
I'm assuming
Just like when you go to the doctor for
Right.
yourself, you have
That's
a
a very good
schedule
point.
of things that
Mhm.
you want to do. Your car, your vehicle needs the same kind of treatment. So you lay out a schedule.
Yep.
And you build that trust and you say, these are the things that I think are most important priority.
Yep.
And then these are the next things that you should do the next time you're here.
And
And if
it-
they can pull out a tool and show you a few of these things and show you, some of the tools you're going to go through today probably have gauges on them
they do.
and a display where you can see a number and you can give them a range of numbers that this means this and this means that and this means it's time for something new.
Yeah, and by going over
Absolutely.
the list, we show I'm guessing you'd assume if this guy's smart enough to differentiate between
Right.
what I do and what I don't need, he's probably a more intelligent technician, not less. Whereas
Yep.
somebody who just presents everything as level 10, top to bottom,
Yeah.
it shows the ignorance.
Yeah.
I think it,
Priority systems are big. That's
Yeah.
that's one thing that I will say we benefit from is being able to say, hey, priority one, this is
Yep.
safety
Yep.
items, has a a wheel bearing, broken tie rod, bad tire, something like that. That's going to be a P1, but maybe your coolant or your brake flush, that's a P3. That's a maintenance item, right? So
Right.
that's like third down on the list.
unless it literally has floaties in it from the amount
Now-
of dust it has, then
now,
I'd make that P1. But
So
Yeah,
super
absolutely.
contaminated or a squishy brake
Yeah.
pedal, brake fluid's going up to a P1, but
transparent brown brake fluid could actually hang there for
Yeah.
a little bit.
it might last until your next oil change.
Right, you might have another oil change in there.
Right.
Definitely not
Could create
normally
a
a
new problem.
P1, right?
Could
And
create
then
some new
also
problems.
that creates the thought of next time I get my oil change,
Maybe I should.
I'm
get my
gonna need
brake flush.
I'm gonna need to spend a little bit more this time around.
Yeah.
Because you get that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I only got enough for the oil change today.
Well,
Then
that's
you just
probably
have to-
only do have enough for the oil change today. We as store managers, you need to believe that more, right?
I mean,
Figure out how much somebody actually has to take care of the car. What's your budget? What do you actually have to get back on track today?
right. And then there's also other options you guys use up front. Payment options of
Well, my first option, and I'm not gonna lie, is how much do you have? And can I fit in everything you absolutely need for drivability if I discount down to that dollar?
right.
Right? That way I'm not putting them on a card. And then of course, second is definitely a card, a good card. By the way, everybody, Synchrony Car Care card is a very good card. We're not sponsored by Synchrony Car Care at all, but that card has no pitfalls for the customer as long as you're astute and you pay attention to the card. It's a useful card, and that's the one I typically recommend. I've been at multiple locations.
Yeah.
Recommend it every time. So y'all
We
use the
we
same
use
one.
that same
Yeah.
one. Yep.
And we're
And
not the same shop, so
Nope.
Yeah.
we're both using the same card. Might tell you something. You were pointing at something.
Yeah, so we were talking about
Yep.
different aids visually as far as small measuring tools, things like that can help gauge things. We talked about some listening devices. That way you can hear audible sounds. What do you got for me?
So this is a borescope with a dexterous end, meaning it can move.
Mine doesn't do that. I got a little magnet hook though.
And it also has a picture taking button, and
You can record video as well.
I can record video as well. Very bright light on the end to go down those holes. I actually just used this the other day.
Used mine the other day as
With
well.
Van.
Well, you're talking about building customer trust. When you can get down into an area that he'll never see because he's
Yeah.
not gonna crawl under the engine, and even if he did, he probably couldn't see it.
Absolutely.
Then you're giving a picture of it and explaining what's going on.
So perfect example of that tool that I recently used it for. Two things. One, obviously, to check inside your cylinders. The bright light in there. Get down in there. You can see maybe we did a compression test. Cylinder 3's got no compression.
Mhm.
It's time to pull this tool out. See if there's a hole somewhere, maybe a bent valve, something like that. And with yours, actually being able to turn the camera up to see the valves is
Make sure you can
is
actually.
amazing.
Yeah, it'll do a full.
Uh,
Actually, I can show that. So this one will do
A full upside down.
full
So
90 degrees, so you can see the valves, and the customers can see the valves. I think one of the main problems we have in the industry is we use these tools as technicians. I'm a mechanic, so is Max. I know I run stores, but I didn't start that way. And I have been guilty of using the tool or watching my mechanic use the tool, and then when I'm in the moment with the customer, being totally glazing
Drop
over
the
the
ball.
fact that they want to see it too. It would have taken me 8 minutes to go out there or 4 minutes and say, hey, I know you're not sure about this. Why don't we look at it? Because I think everything's hypothetical BS until you can actually show it.
you should be able to
Because
show
they're not the professionals.
almost everything.
And it's not that we shouldn't have to expect that out of our customers.
So that cuts the amount of negotiation time. It's-
Overall, I'd agree with that. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not,
Yeah.
you're showing that it's not a negotiation. You need to do this, and here's why.
We're
Correct.
showing that we're doctors. We're not just guys that
Yeah.
are working on cars.
Those are really useful for those 3.6 Dodge leaking oil coolers
Yeah.
because, like
Yeah.
you said, we know how to peek down and look and see very clearly what's leaking and what's not. But that was actually what I used mine for the other day. Oil's running out of the back because when these leak, they drip down on top of the transmission and run down the side of the transmission, and it looks like a rear main seal leak or something underneath the vehicle is leaking. Customers have a very hard time understanding that this leak is happening in the valley of the motor. The valley is filling up with oil, depending
Yeah.
on how it's
Oh,
going back. And
I did. I used it for the same reason last week. Swear to God.
Yeah. So stick the camera down in there, show them, hey, look, down in here, this whole valley's filled with oil, and this is where it's coming from. You got that, and then on top of that, it's such a common problem that you can Google 3.6 oil cooler, and
Yep.
that's the first thing that's going to pop up.
It's made of plastic. Yeah, I mean, it's actually a very good engine. Has
Great engine
that
for its
flaw.
time. Once you update
Um,
to the aluminum one,
Yep. So same thing. Customer came in, Dodge Grand Caravan with the same motor. Two of them back to back, one day after the next. Right. So we did this twice in
you got
2
a third one
days.
coming.
Probably do. I'm sure you'll tell me about it later. And I stuck the borescope down in there to show the customer. You know, we have like 3 or 4 cups of oil, standing
Just-
oil in between the two banks of the cylinder heads. And you know, then this is a customer who tends to never repair anything, and they try to repair what they can at home. And we're explaining a service where we're like, hey, we need to change out what on most cars is something 2 bolts will take it off and throw on a new one, and it's going to cost you $1,200.
Yeah.
Right. But by watching us go down and realizing all this is under all these layers of intake manifold gasket,
Yeah.
the customer just said yes. It wasn't a long
Yeah.
conversation at all. It saved the, you know, that 5 minutes saved it. Go ahead.
And
Well-
better, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Like time is money.
Right.
You know, time is money, and it's important for the shop, but it takes longer to explain something than to show them something.
You end up burning more time.
You
That's
burn more
very
time.
True. A lot of
And-
talking and
and
not a lot
then-
of action.
But then you go back to showing somebody something, their eyes believe it quicker than their
Yeah.
ears hear it. You know,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it feels longer
and it just seems
than it actually is.
to build the trust better too.
Right.
That you
It
took
absolutely
the time
does, yeah.
to show them this, and
Yeah.
with your diagnostic tools, and that helps build the trust of the customer. You want them to come back.
Well, I think for us, a lot of times when we're presenting, because we're already talking, right? The easiest thing is to say another word. We feel like grabbing a tool and going to the car might add more time to the explanation, whereas
Maybe it was less.
maybe it was a lot less.
It was a lot less because
Right.
you're using a lot less words because
Oh yeah, and those
Like you
two
said,
those two
very
vans
visual.
all back to back,
Mhm.
both days, short conversations, easy interactions with customers,
Yeah.
and they no stress at the end of it. They knew they needed it. They knew they got a deal on the job, and they were happy to have it done.
Yep.
And wouldn't you all say as well that you're keeping them from making a mistake that in some cases could be deadly?
Well, yeah, doubt.
Absolutely. And
Making a choice based on doubt is our job to correct
yes.
before we start working.
I mean, just the conversation we had on the trip, it seems like a little thing, but when somebody knows that in that situation to accelerate out, I mean, that accident I had with the Aspire could have easily been fatal.
Oh yeah, we were all
And if
surprised
I had
that it
listened to a
wasn't, and I'm so
podcast,
glad you're still here. Obviously.
yeah. But we don't know right now how many people will not have that happen to them.
Absolutely.
Um,
We'll jump into some more of these tools and kind of explain what they do and how we can use these to
So
show
when,
customers things.
when would you pull that one out, Max? What situation? Put the customer into perspective. What situation would you grab that to show something to a customer?
Let's grab you got test lights over there?
I got test lights,
Okay.
so you don't need.
So you have a meter as well.
I do.
And
This
there
is a good.
is-
Fluke is a good
Fluke,
meter.
this
He
is
also
a,
has a good meter.
it's a Blue Point. So
Honestly, if you don't see good meters, Blue Point, expensive meters, they are
not accurate.
not accurate, and sometimes the person displaying the issue can manipulate the display.
Yeah.
Whereas these meters are extremely accurate. So if you don't see good tools, I wouldn't trust the outcome of what he's showing you.
That's very true. I guess we'll go to this as well. So
So I have a
digital
this one has a bulb in it.
test light.
Well, no, this is the LED. So the red one's the LED. That's for lower voltage sections of the vehicle.
5 volts.
5 volts.
5 volt
Yep,
reference.
5
and
volt
stuff
reference.
like that.
And it's sharp on the tip, so I can actually poke into your insulation a little bit, or back probe, which is preferable over poking in the insulation,
Absolutely.
and show you that we don't have power at a certain point, where that cutoff is, where that wire has burned
show
out
an
inside.
example of some back probes.
There you go. Look at the back probe. So
So tiny, basically almost like a shot needle.
Each one of those
Just hooked
is
right
bent
in.
in a different direction, I assume, for a purpose.
Yeah, so I got,
Yeah.
90-degree, 45-degree, and then straight through.
Yeah.
A couple of my straight ones are starting to look 90s, and
So those are
thank God
just,
they have warranty, right?
yes.
So this is for 9 to 12 volt reference. It's an actual regular bulb. It needs more voltage to turn on. LEDs just don't, which is why they're built the way that they are. But these are really simple tools for you guys who are running shops. You can very easily explain to the customer, if this doesn't light up, you don't have power there. If it does, you do have power there.
Correct.
But for the customers, the red one is LED. So if they pull out the red one, but they're checking, I'm sorry, if they pull out the clear one, but they're checking a low voltage section of your car, make sure they're not trying to play it.
So another good thing, that's just one of those quick, you're not going to get an accurate reading with that. I do have, there is another version of a test light that I do have.
Let's pull that up.
I don't have it with me.
Oh, you said
I
you
have,
did though.
I do not have that test light. I have the Power Probe with me.
Power Probe will
This
work
will
too.
jump into it, but the other one that I do have does a digital voltage reading on the probe, and it'll light up different colors, power and ground. So you can do those 5-volt references and actually see where in this case is a little bit more, I guess, old school.
Yeah.
All of these old school guys, the brightness of the light, they'll know whether this, I got a guy my guy that retired recently, he'd use the light bulb test light, and you'd watch him do it, and I'd see him checking everything. I watched all the light bulbs light up, so in my mind, everything's good. He said this one's 2 volts low. What do you mean it's 2 volts low? The brightness of the light, but that also comes with years of skill in using this and going from using that to say, hey, this light's not light. Okay, that's where you pull out the meter. Now you're going to check it with your multimeter and figure out exactly how low it is, and maybe you have a little bit of high resistance or something on a wire, things like that. So that would be where the meter comes in when I need to check resistance, things like that. If I'm actually just testing for power, let's say for example on a horn, a horn specifically, I'm always going to go to my Power Probe.
This provides power, guys. It
This
doesn't read power. It
So
provides it.
this reads power
Oh, yours
and
does
provides
both.
power. Yep, and
Oh,
I can
this
I can
actually
apply
covers
power
all the
and I can
above.
apply ground.
Awesome.
So again, there's a couple of different tips on it. One with a pointy end, you can just tap to different things. There's audible noise with it. They do have different attachments where you can actually hook the wires and it pierces the wire itself, just to kind of give a little pinhole in the insulation of the wire. But what I would do this for, as far as let's say we're diagnosing a horn, I can go through and I can back probe or get to the terminal on the actual horn itself. And the first place I start personally is at the horn with that
Well, you
specific
can
system,
show the customer
because
exactly.
I can say, hey, I know everything's good, and so I check it, and if I have the guy in the car hit the horn button and nothing comes out,
Right.
obviously there's no power to the horn and the horn's not going to go off. But if there was getting power to it, I can also manually apply power, and it has a ground as well that you can clip to it. So I can separate the horn circuit from the car, and I can just test the horn itself in the car without actually removing it, just by unclipping the connectors. So I'll always go through, actuate the horn first. If the horn blows, keep moving back until you get to a spot where you get the proper readings.
Well, you're also saving the customer money, because a lot of people would just default and say, well, let's replace the horn, we'll rewire it all the way, and we'll
Yeah, let's
fix the
do
problem.
5 items instead of 1, right?
5 items instead of
Knowing
one.
they'll probably get it with the shotgun blast
So
and make more money.
with that example too, they're gonna sell you a relay. They're gonna sell you maybe a clock spring. They're gonna sell you the actual horn assemblies
Right.
themselves. You got to be able to show, hey, look, the horns work, and I have power up to here, but the switch isn't making power. So if I make these things energize this way,
Right.
and then you can show that with the Power Probe, I can make the system work, but this switch out here is what's not working. That was actually
And in that same example, you may end up selling them just a piece of wire about this long.
absolutely.
I'm going to pop in with something I just said. If the person that you're interacting with is showing you all this, taking the time to explain it to you, and still says, I would still recommend these 3 items be replaced instead of this 1, even though this is where the failure is, that is, I think under that circumstance, you can trust that needs to be done. I think it really applies more to the EVAP system than electrical, except for lighting.
Absolutely.
But if they ever take the time, and they are exceptional, they take the time to show you, and they also say that there's more than one item needing to be replaced, you should probably take them up on that. They're trying to watch out for your time. They don't want you to burn up your time at work. They don't want you to burn up your time for your family and your kids.
Well, that, and I mean, we can't burn up our diagnostic time, because if we're not using our time appropriately, it's hard to, especially when it comes into electrical diag and things where we might have initially charged 2 hours for electrical diag, and now I'm 3-4 hours into it, and it's time to call the customer and say, hey man, this is what we've got so far. I have to go through and explain what I've tested and,
But you'll be
basically how
able to-
everything is gone,
Right.
but we're going to need some more time on it.
You'll be able to show them why you need more time.
Exactly.
Because you've already been,
We're-
you've actually been doing the process.
Dialing in that microscope just a little bit finer, and we've got it narrowed down to here, but we got to get a little bit further into it.
So for customers, if you see a shotgun blast and there's no diag behind it, I would not even begin the service.
Nope.
If somebody says, hey, you need 3 items, but let me show you the main item that's causing the problem, that's a different story. That's a much, much different story.
At one time when I was driving from here,
Yep.
doing our inspection in Atlanta, the light came on literally like 20 minutes from the inspection station.
Yep.
And I drove from here to Atlanta.
Now, I'm going to assume your experience probably seemed kind of, what's the word for it, shady, when they said your EVAP system's not working properly, even though your vehicle was absolutely working 100%.
Yes, and relatively new vehicles and shouldn't have those
Shouldn't
problems.
have the problems.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Maybe
wow.
a Jeep or GMC vehicle.
Yeah.
It was
Some sort
it was
of-
it was a GM vehicle, because I know exactly what you're
How
talking
did I
about now.
know?
Nope, that's yep. The wheels are.
I also
again,
do tarot card readings and
But these smoke machines definitely pressurized smoke. We can actually, if it says it has a leak in the system, something like that, we can actually hook this up to the EVAP system itself, pressurize the smoke. This machine will push smoke through those lines. Those lines are what actually transmits the fuel vapors back to your engine from your gas tank, and gets everything EPA friendly.
right. It also keeps your
Um,
engine running in tune because it
correct.
uses those EVAP gases to burn
Correct.
the engine.
So this will just like anything else, wherever you see the smoke coming out,
There's your problem.
There's your problem. It's a pretty
Did you
cut
have
and dry.
a smoke tester pulled out to explain?
I have
What you were
never
doubting?
seen one of those.
Yeah, never, not once.
Not
Really?
once.
So when you say a smoke tester, it will tell you what some of the contents?
No, you just watch it. So let's say I was to bring you out to the car, Dad, and you have an EVAP code. We as shops cannot pass your car with an EVAP
Yeah.
code. They've made that absolutely impossible. The computer determines it, not us. We have to find where, but the computer knows we have a leak. Until that leak is gone, you will not pass state inspection. There's not a shop out there that's going to be able to do it because those computers are so locked down. I would bring you out to the car because I'm in a situation where I cannot pass you, put the smoke tester on, and show you this solenoid right here is leaking, and you will see the smoke come out of that solenoid, out of that valve, out of that hose, right? And you'll be able to see with me, I have a leak right here. I need to replace this component.
In unison with doing that.
And when somebody takes the time and effort to do what you did, I would be inclined as a customer to come back. Whereas if you just came to me and
You're
said,
more likely to have that experience twice.
yeah, if you just came out and said, I'm sorry, it can't be passed.
Right. And that's when we come across this a-hole. So, I'll hop on that in just a second. So as managers or as technicians that are explaining things to customers, a lot of times we know what's wrong with the car because we've already done the diag, and we choke in the moment instead of bringing them out to the car. And we come across as absolute a-holes because all we're doing is using a lot of words to say, I know I'm right and I can't help you and you need to go somewhere else or do something else or get a brain, right? And that's how the customer feels. When you pause at that moment, you're really just struggling internally when you should stop and go back to what you've already done and just show it to the customer.
Absolutely.
Right. Max has an amazing tool for doing that.
I was going to say, well, that leads into, in tandem with this, actually perfectly led into
Together,
this. Like you were saying, to show if the salt, like we'll say a purge valve, for example, it's got a purge during non-purge flow. So
But you
you're going to
gotta
hook up the
open it.
system.
Mhm.
We're going to show that on here, and this is actually going to tell us that we do have the the issue in general, and some are more advanced. Obviously, you have down from pocket scanners all the way up to stuff like this. It's going to show you what the code is, what your issue is, and where and got us to this point. And then we're going to go ahead and command on and off, so I can actuate almost anything on a vehicle,
Yeah.
down to your headlights. I can go through here and turn on and off headlights,
So
beat the horn, the
I
whole
want to hop in, Max.
Go ahead.
When you go to Max's shop and Max says, I'm going to open your purge valve, I'm going to close your purge valve.
Yeah.
And smoke is still going to come out of your fuel tank filler nozzle.
Yep.
He is opening and closing that with this tool, right?
Yep.
If he shows you on this, hey, look, I got it open, now I got it closed, but I still have smoke coming out. He's showing you that door is not opening.
Yep.
It's not closing.
The
It's
solenoid
supposed
is
to
not
close, right?
energizing or de-energizing.
It's not either
as
opening or
it's
closing, and
Nope.
the smoke coming out of your filler tank nozzle is the
the leak.
leak that you're looking
Absolutely.
for. It's what we use to determine it. How long would it take you to show that to a customer?
Probably no more than 5 minutes, probably, and that's honestly
7 max.
that's waiting for the smoke machine to
To
populate. But if
build
I've
up
just
smoke.
let's say they're inside waiting, I mean it'd take
Yeah.
all 2 minutes.
And I'm guilty of it. Now I tend to be guilty of it, then stop myself and be like, look, I need to go show the customer.
Absolutely.
But talking for 16, 17 minutes about what we're doing
And
instead
trying
of
to
just
explain
going
it,
out there and
yeah.
showing it to them.
A lot of people I notice are
Right.
more visual. If
They
you
are.
can show
Well-
them, it's a lot easier. And
We can tell each other what's going on with cars because we work with them every day. That's just not their job.
I mean that's very
Visual
true, too.
is for the customer. That's why we have digital vehicle inspections now that go to customers' phones with pictures and videos.
Yep.
Because it's just not their job to know that much to where just a conversation would cover the issue.
One thing I really loved from a customer standpoint about what both of y'all did is I never heard you selling a service with the diagnosis. Because oftentimes people will do that. And if you're there mainly to tell them what's wrong, it would initiate me to possibly ask you, would you say the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
If they tell you, okay, this is wrong, but we can fix it,
Mm-hmm.
versus they tell you what's wrong and then they go around and tell you the other problems and they don't say anything about that. How are you liable to react? Would you say it might be the same reaction as I spoke of earlier?
Curious as to how am I going to solve the problem?
Yeah. How am I going to do it myself? Because you're clearly not explaining
Yeah.
it to me.
That's exactly what we are.
What's my next choices? Where am I
Right.
going to solve this problem? Because
Right.
I want to deal with this headache. That's why I came here in the first place.
Right. Where else am I going to go that's going to give me the information I need? Whether I'm going to go home and look it up myself, I'm going to find another shop who's actually going to get me to understand what's wrong. Because nobody wants their car fixed by somebody who can't explain what's wrong with the vehicle.
That's a great point.
And the
Yeah.
immediate thing, and I think the best thing is when you're out talking to a customer, a lot of times, like I said, if it's a waiter oil change, I want to get them out and show them something as quick as possible. That way, within the first few minutes of your visit, or within the first 15 minutes of your visit, I've given you something,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you came in for an oil change and your check engine light's on. I haven't got to that check engine light quite yet, but as we were going ahead and knocking out this oil change and taking a look over the vehicle, I noticed a couple of these things. These tires are getting pretty low, and maybe your brake pads in the back need to be replaced soon. But that's what I wanted to bring you out, visually show you, and using our tools, show you what's going on. And then you're back inside. Now, when it comes out time to explain the diagnostic of whatever your engine light was on for, maybe it was a
Right.
purge valve. Now we pull out these tools and we can just show you real quick, this is what's going on, or send them through the video. I think that's a big,
But
a
also
big
it
deal.
shows that you're actually looking at the car before you ask for diagnostic time,
Correct.
right?
Yeah,
The customer's already going to be competent. He brought me to the car. He showed me the car. He's telling me I need 3 or 4 hours to use these tools
Mm.
to look at your car. They're going to be much more confident that you're actually going to do that
And
and actually look at the
a lot of people I've noticed they want to refuse diagnostic time because they think that just this tool alone
It's magic,
is magic.
right?
And I can plug this in and it tells me there's only really one thing that it'll ever tell me what's wrong, and it's usually a catalytic converter.
I promise it's not magic.
But it still comes.
This is what
yeah.
we used to
And on top of
find
that,
what that
I mean,
that shows us,
you
and,
have
and much more.
and much more. Yeah.
Yeah.
and this will do things like wrap things down to the T. So this is like a super advanced multimeter, I guess, that shows visual graphs to check.
Which is a separate tool that attaches to that tool.
But when we're using that tool, that's just a starting point. Then you, like you said, we have to break into all these other tools, and a lot of people don't understand why they do pay a diagnostic. You're paying that diagnostic time for me to confirm what's wrong with your car, not to guess what's wrong with your car. Your diagnostic time is to confirm what's wrong with your car.
Well, your dad actually said that earlier, is that when you go to the doctor, they always show you visuals
Mhm.
of what's wrong with you and explain it and show you graphs and charts and everything per
Yep.
item.
Yep.
Every single item of what's with what's wrong with you, with what they found. I think it's an absolute shame that we spend so much time and charge so much time to the customer to actually find the problem. We spent 3 hours to find this problem. We could have quickly brought the customer to what we spent 3 hours finding,
Right.
and we don't.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we could have utilized that 3 hours for a 4-minute display of
Mhm.
exactly what's wrong with the car, and we don't. We
Mhm.
missed that opportunity, we missed that moment. And I think what we really want the store managers and the technicians to know, correct me if I'm wrong, Max, is that when somebody shows concern or question, that's when you need to bring out your tools. Every time.
Every time. And that, like
Stop
you said,
talking, bring out the tools.
yep. And especially when they get hesitant. On
Any
things.
hesitation, that's another one.
I'm bad about it. I stutter a lot in general,
Mm-hmm.
but that little things like that shows. And when you talk and explain things to a customer, when you're fresh in it off of a diagnostic, your head's in it. You're cool, calm, collected. You're confident in what's going on. There's no, well, I kind of found
Okay, I
out.
think you're telling me the truth. Let's do the
Yeah.
job.
Right.
Yeah.
Customer already shows up on defense,
100%.
Yeah.
and you want
It has
him
to.
to switch to offense
Right.
because you want to show him here. I'm here to
We're
help
a
you
team.
with your vehicle. We're a team.
Right. And
That's
if you
right.
haven't gotten to that point of have we done a good job, would you say
Yes.
I've done a good job if I haven't gotten you
That's
there?
right.
Probably not.
So
Yeah.
for some
Yeah.
customers, it'll be 4 minutes, and some customers
It-
may take 20 minutes. But you're securing the trust of that customer, which means he'll come back for other things as well.
I've got
And
customers.
the more you show your customers, the quicker you're going to get at reading your customer to know if you're going to even be able to break ground with this
Well, the quicker
customer.
you'll be able to do this
Yeah.
process efficiently
Yes.
instead of doing some
You'll be able to show
delayed,
them
short
quickly
process.
and efficiently,
Right.
but you're going to also read that customer because there are going to be some customers that maybe will never understand it or won't believe their lying eyes.
So maybe
That's
maybe we
true.
need to slow down and get fast at doing it the right
But
way.
if you do it a few times and you get them to come back,
Yep.
pretty soon, the next time you want to show them something, they may not
Not
even
like
want to
that.
see it. They just
I
say,
have definitely had that one.
they say,
I'm good, Brandon. Go
I'm
ahead and
good.
do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks anyway.
Yeah.
You've already got that part
That-
done. Yeah.
That's
That is
a little
great
pat.
point.
That's a little pat on the back to the shop.
Yes, it is to the whole
Absolutely.
team,
Yeah.
top
Yeah.
to bottom.
Customer that's difficult to communicate with, and you use that 30 minutes to explain everything. It's possible that guy won't come to anybody else after that.
Well,
Because other people don't do that.
Absolutely.
He becomes patient. He doesn't trust them. He never gets that element of trust.
Yeah.
And when he actually finds somebody like yourselves,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I believe I can go to either one of these people or one of their affiliates, and they will give it to me straight. If I need more, they'll tell me more. But for the most part, that element of trust that you built in that 30 minutes will make the next meeting maybe 4 minutes long.
Yes.
my list of most loyal customers from both Walkertown, Carolina Auto, and Cloverdale Auto, all three are all the most difficult customers in town.
Now that you mention it.
Think about it. Your
Yeah, looking back on my
your customer who
yeah.
shows up and always spends what they need to spend,
Yeah.
the amount they should
Nothing-
spend to
nothing
get
more.
back on the road.
But yeah, those difficult
They
customers
always
do
spend
seem
it is
to
that customer, right?
fix the problem. Yeah.
And they yeah. And I've actually you kind of opened my eyes. I've always been proud of my ability to retain that customer,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. And that
It's due to this,
it's the transparency.
right?
It's the building the trust.
Don't kick out your smartest customers. That's a terrible idea. Don't say you're too difficult because they're probably just too smart to go for your BS.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's kind of like the situation I was talking about in reverse.
Right.
If you don't get down to the nitty gritty, they're not.
You haven't even done your job yet. if
Yeah,
you don't.
they're
Right.
not just not going to trust you because the explanation is not complete.
Right. Well, I got to cut it short because I was told 8 minutes ago that I had 5 more minutes. I hope you guys really enjoyed the episode. Thanks, Max, for bringing up the subject and getting out here. Thanks, Dads, for letting us
Thank you.
know what you've experienced and how it's worked for you in the automotive industry. I really want to encourage you customers to pay attention to shops who take the time to do this and use that as your radar for finding a good shop.
Absolutely.
All right, let's have a good night.